All right, let's talk about one of the most powerful and most dangerous tools in a screenwriter's arsenal, the flashback. Today we're going to crack open the end-style scenario guide and figure out how to use this tricky device to create these huge, powerful moments without, completely derailing your entire story.
Look, there's no way around it. The flashback is a total double-edged sword. When you pull it off, it can add this incredible depth and emotion that nothing else can. But when you get it wrong, it's a disaster. You don't just confuse the audience, you break their trust. And once that's gone, your story's pretty much dead in the water.
So, you might be asking, if it's so incredibly risky, why even bother? What's the big reward that makes writers take that gamble? Well, it's because a really great flashback isn't just a trip down memory lane. It's actually doing two incredibly important jobs for your story, all at the same time. Now, on paper, the definition is super simple, right? You just pause the present and jump into the past. But in reality, a good flashback is so much more than that. It's not just showing something that happened. It's an active, strategic move. Think of it less like an old photo and more like a surgeon's scalpel, meant to make a very precise emotional cut.
And these are its two main jobs. First, it acts like a support beam for your plot, helping to hold the whole thing together. And second, and this is the really cool part, it's like an emotional shortcut. It instantly closes the gap between the audience and your characters by letting us in on a piece of their past that changes everything.
So how does it do that balancing act? Well, the guide uses this absolutely fantastic analogy that honestly just clicked for me. It perfectly explains the two things every story is constantly trying to juggle: structure and emotion.
Think about it. Every great story needs to feel kind of like cotton candy. It's big, sprawling, emotional, a little messy, just like life. But at the same time, it also needs to be like a train rail, strong, rigid, and driving forward with unstoppable momentum. You need that feeling, but you also need that forward drive.
And that's where the flashback reveals its secret power. It's the one tool that lets you give the audience all that delicious, emotional cotton candy without ever letting the train fly off the rails. It lets you add all this rich context and depth while making sure the plot is still charging full steam ahead.
Okay, but here comes the big but. Every single time you use a flashback, you are breaking the most fundamental rule of how we experience the world. Time only moves forward. And let me tell you, playing that game with an audience's brain is really, really risky.
And that's the whole problem in a nutshell. We are literally hardwired to follow things from beginning to end, A to B to C. So when you suddenly slam the story into reverse, you're fighting against pure human instinct. You're asking your audience to stop, figure out where and when they are, and keep track of a whole separate timeline.
If that jump feels clunky or out of place, you're doing more than just creating a little confusion. You're putting what the guide calls a significant burden on the viewer. You're making them do work they shouldn't have to do, and that's how you lose them. That's how credibility just vanishes.
Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. If you're going to break the laws of time without causing a complete narrative pileup, how in the world do you do it? What's the secret sauce that makes a flashback work?
And the answer, believe it or not, it's actually pretty simple. It has nothing to do with how dramatic the backstory is or how cool your transition effect is. Nope. The entire secret to a perfect flashback boils down to one thing and one thing only: placement. It's not about what you show, it's about when you show it.
And there it is, the golden rule. A flashback only works when it shows up at the exact moment the audience is desperate for it. This isn't about you, the writer, wanting to dump some backstory. It's about making the audience need that backstory so badly that they are practically begging for it.
Now let's unpack that, because this idea really changes how you should think about flashbacks. It means your main job isn't just coming up with a cool past for your character. Your real job is to build the present so expertly that the audience develops this intense, burning need to know what happened before.
Here's how it works in practice. Step 1. Something happens in the present that makes no sense. A character sees a red balloon and panics. Step 2. The audience immediately feels a gap in their understanding. They lean in and think, wait, why? What's the deal with the balloon? And step 3, bam. Right at the peak of that curiosity, you give them the flashback. And it doesn't feel like an interruption. It feels like an answer. It feels satisfying.
When you get that timing just right, something magical happens. The flashback stops feeling like a detour. It feels like the very next scene that had to happen. It doesn't stop the story's momentum at all. In fact, it does the opposite. It adds a whole new tank of emotional fuel to the engine and makes everything move even faster.
So ultimately, That's the big takeaway. A great flashback isn't just a memory, it's a carefully timed revelation. As a writer, you're not just creating a sequence of events, you're literally controlling time. So the only question left is, where, and more importantly, when, will you choose to take your audience?